David with EV World News. We're talking about electric vehicles, green energy, and the stock markets. I'm back today with our founder and chief editor, Bill Moore. How's it going today, Bill?
Going well, although I wish I were at Oshkosh.
Oh, there you go. Well, if nothing else, we've got some aviation topics
We can
to
talk
make.
about, yes.
We can
Yes.
try to make everybody as happy as possible with our aviation topics. So we're going to start out talking about this company called SkyDrive. Now, this is the first I've heard of them. And SkyDrive's got a cool looking vehicle. Now, of course, we're EV world, so this means everything from
Bikes to buses and beyond.
yes, it gets interesting to see what we come up with sometimes. Here we go. Here's our latest electric vehicle right here, the SkyDrive. It's one pilot, two passengers. This is a three-person eVTOL. And let's see. Got a little video playing here in the screen, video in video. It's a Toyota affiliated startup. It's crossed a major hurdle on the path to bringing flying cars to everyday life. Let's see.
Sure. Uh-huh.
It's officially been issued a G1 certification for the Japan Civil Aviation Bureau, a critical step between full approval and commercial use. Now, this is designed to be a personally owned vehicle. They're showing this off at the 2025 World Expo in Osaka. They have a shared blueprint for what the aircraft must prove in order to safely enter commercial service. It'll be interesting to see how this may play. Normally, I understand aircraft are supposed to have like 45 minutes of extra fuel, right?
Well, roughly that, yeah.
Yeah, so this is going to be kind of a challenge. This is a completely battery-operated aircraft. It's 38 feet long and has 12 electric rotors, carries one pilot, two passengers, and flies up to 62 miles per hour. Has a range of 9 to 25 miles on a single charge. You're not going very far.
No, you're not going far. Yeah.
That's a quick trip. Quick urban hops. Shrinks commutes, cuts traffic, avoids air pollution.
Yeah.
It's battery powered, has no tailpipe emissions. Man, but 9 to 25 miles. I mean, you've got to be able to charge at both ends, right?
Well, you'd have to charge at both ends. Yeah, having a little bit of, this past weekend, for example, I was helping build an airplane. So I know what goes into building an airplane. And what do you do with 5 to 25 miles? I mean, that's not what, I guess if you're living in Tokyo and you want to get from one suburb of Tokyo to another suburb of Tokyo, although they really have a good subway system, but you just don't want to deal with all the people or whatever. I guess that makes sense. But if you want to build your own airplane, you're looking somewhere starting around at least 30,000, and probably some of the ones that are showing up in Oshkosh this week, you're starting $60,000 to build it, and you're looking at probably at least 2, 3, 5, 10 years to build this thing, right? I mean, like I said, I know what it takes to drill holes for rivets and put clecos in and take clecos out. And it's long. It's a laborious process. So who's going to afford, among the general public, this kind of a vehicle? Well, I guess you could have like the version of a black car. There's that's their job is you just, hey, pick me up at, the Tokyo hotel and fly me over to, the airport outside of Tokyo, whatever.
Yeah, but with that range, you're not giving a whole lot of rides unless
no,
this has
you're not.
battery
You're not
swap
getting. You're not getting. But of course, that's a function of the battery too. So if they're partnered with Toyota, I would assume that they're probably hoping that they're going to have access to Toyota's solid state battery once it begins to get into the production system. So, but yeah, I mean, it's kind of neat, but what you're looking at is a computer illustration. Where's the real airplane?
Right. No, saying
So I'm a little skeptical. Now, that being said, Beta, which has something that looks very similar to this, is at Oshkosh, and I saw them landing and taking off from Oshkosh here yesterday, I think it was, or Sunday. So we're seeing those things starting to make inroads. The same model Beta is touring Europe right now and flying between various cities. So we're getting there. And I can see why Toyota probably thinks this is the future. Although I can't see it being a very, very big market for something like that. And you're probably looking, boy, I'm guessing you're looking at something north of $300,000 at least.
Probably. Yeah. I'm just looking at that and it's like, well, maybe it's not so sophisticated to build. I don't know.
Well, the beauty, of course, is that it's electric, right? So you're going to have, obviously going to have to do maintenance on it, but I think with just the electric motors, 12 of them, boy, that's a lot.
Yeah. Well, I guess some of that's for safety in case one fails.
Yeah, you want redundancy, obviously, in there. That's the advantage of having, 4 engines as opposed to 2 engines, or like a jet fighter. You have single engine fighters and you have dual engine fighters, and generally dual engine fighters are going to be like Navy because there's not a lot of places to land out on the ocean. So,
right.
It's exciting to watch this. I just think that sometimes the press gets a little over the top in some of what they think this technology can do.
Yeah, I'm just saying it's. I just look at it though, that 9 to 25 mile range. I mean, shoot, that's not. Now, I guess if you're talking Manhattan, that's plenty, right?
Yeah.
If you're hopping from building to building. But then there's going to be a limit to how many rooftops you can land on, right?
Well, yeah, exactly. How many rooftops
you can't
are
have
there?
these stacked. Well, you can't have this. Obviously, you're not going to have like a parking lot on the roof, right? It's one thing for one helicopter to come in and land and then take right back off after dropping somebody off. This is a little different. This doesn't really have the range to be going to. This isn't something you would be using like Ubering people around. Not with that kind of range.
No.
Yeah, so that's a little bit of a different type. Well, let's move on to our next aircraft, Bill. So
okay, let's do it.
Yeah. So
in honor this week, we're doing this in honor of Oshkosh, right?
There you go. You go. So Toyota is skipping a $1 billion EV investment and instead putting that money into Joby flying cars. Now, most of the Jobys are electric, right?
Yes, they are.
They're predominantly, well, I think, I don't know that Joby does anything with fuel of any kind other than electric. I mean, there's some of these eVTOL companies that are part hydrogen or part
gas. Some are hybrid, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you really have to be hybrid to get much range, but this is, kind of interesting to see doing, but they've decided to divert $1 billion they were going to put into EV development and put it into Joby. And it's interesting kind of to see this because, it does look like flying cars are going to be a big part of the future going forward, but it's just kind of wild to see this. Let's see. Will Toyota be left behind on EVs? This is kind of an interesting space because obviously Toyota is investing a lot of money in the US in battery development, right? They spent what, 14 billion or something like that on an East Coast battery facility. So obviously at some point they're expecting, great things in the battery space,
yeah, and
right?
have they talked about at some point having 30 different models of EVs?
Yeah, they've certainly discussed that, and they've certainly got some overseas. It's just, the busy forks, they got, something new, they got a couple new ones coming to the US, but it just always seems Toyota, you just never know what to expect with them.
Yeah.
If nothing else, they're big in the plug-in hybrid space, right? So they probably got more plug-in hybrid options than anybody else right now. So, I mean, that's definitely been a positive thing. But you know, who knows with Toyota? You know, Toyota. It's kind of funny how they're sticking in that plug-in hybrid space, because then you've got BYD that only offers either plug-in hybrid or full electric. They don't offer basic
Gas.
hybrid or just
Yeah.
straight gas.
Yeah.
You know, but anyways, there's not any real news there on Joby other than the fact that Toyota is putting more money into
And
it.
that's
That's
good
not
news.
new.
Then that's good news if you're Joby, right? To
Yeah, it's
have
good
that
news for
kind of backing.
Joby.
That's kind
Yeah.
of like Rivian having Amazon, come to their rescue, or having, or even better, having Volkswagen.
Well, what
Say
is it?
we're
Archer is Stellantis then, right?
Archer.
So yeah,
I
Archer
think so.
Aviation.
Be
Yeah, I mean,
honest,
one
I'm
of them
having a
is,
hard time keeping them all apart.
yeah, yeah. Joby's backed by Toyota and Archer's backed by Stellantis. And they see that there's definitely going to be flying cars, but it's interesting that all the flying cars are going to be EVs, right?
Of course.
So, or most, yeah. So that's a good thing, and keep them cheap to operate. I mean, that's one of your big costs with aviation, and it is that it's just so expensive to fly the damn things because of just the fuel cost. What was it? We were looking at that one air taxi that they said it used the equivalent of $7 worth of electricity to fly from Manhattan to
Yeah,
the Hamptons.
that's the beta.
Okay,
I think it's the
all right.
beta that did that. Oh well, hang on. Uh, yeah, one of those flew from Northampton over to Kennedy.
Yeah. So one of the big arguments we hear all the time is the U.S. doesn't have the electricity to support all the infrastructure for charging stations and all this. And while we don't really hear about this much in the news, Tesla opened up the Project Oasis in Lost Hills, California. It's got 84 superchargers, and it's got an 11 megawatt solar farm and 10 megapacks. That's 39 megawatt hours of storage. That's a pretty good chunk of battery
All
storage.
all solar powered, not a
Yep, yep,
drop of carbon in that thing.
yeah, and they're not connected to the grid at all.
Yeah.
All of this energy is just to run the charging station. Trailer friendly, it's got pull through stalls. It was built in 8 months, which is pretty fast in any space. Getting something built that fast. No grid connection. It does have a 1.5 megawatt backup. I don't know exactly what that references. By the end of 25, it'll grow to 160 superchargers, making it the largest Tesla charging hub globally. And while the US has passed a bill to cut clean energy subsidies, including for EVs and solar, but this is going the opposite direction. One shows what's possible when infrastructure goes fossil free. That's just, and it kind of really puts a bullet in the head of the theory that we just don't have the power to do these kind of things. And in this particular case, it's putting its own power there. That's a lot of battery, though.
That's a lot of battery. And of course,
39 megawatts.
yeah, I assume somebody's done the economics on that, but it would be interesting to see what the economics are. What do they have to? Are they still giving electricity away free to original Model S owners? This kind of thing, or what is it, 45, 50 cents a kilowatt hour? How are they handling
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, I don't know. But I mean, that'd be the equivalent of 400 to 500 EV batteries that are in that storage, which I guess in the greater scheme of things isn't huge. An 11 megawatt solar farm, that's like about 60 acres of solar panels.
Yeah.
That's a lot of solar panels too. I mean, 60 acres isn't small. It's not the biggest, but it's not tiny either, right?
60 would be what, a quarter
Not even that.
section? A quarter section? A section is what? 180
640.
acres? 640. Yeah, that's right. 640 for a section. Yeah.
Yeah. So this would be a
So
tenth of that.
10%, a little over 10%, 12% of that, of a section.
Yeah. Still, it's a lot of solar. But I just think that's really cool that the whole thing is off grid. They don't have to
Yep.
worry about getting the transformers, getting the lines run out there. Can we power this thing?
But what is that backup? That would be interesting to know. What's your backup?
Yeah, that's a big difference. Okay, so now we talked a little bit about supercharging. Let's let me see. We're going to talk about the Tesla Diner. So Tesla has doing this thing where they're going to put in these supercharging locations, they're going to put a diner.
Now, are the roller skating girls to bring the food out, or
in the car while you're charging. But I thought that was a good
well,
little,
it's gonna be a go-to place. If you go to LA, we got to go see the Tesla Diner.
yeah. Well, they're going to they plan on opening these all along major long highways and stuff like that. Make that just kind of a regular thing. So I think that's
and all vegan, right?
Those were vegan hamburgers. Yeah. The old joke. You can be all vegan and just drink beer and eat French fries, right?
Yeah. There you go.
And potato chips. But that's not the idea of being vegan. But that technically would be there. Okay, Bill, you want to talk about the Yutong's IC12E?
No, I see. Yeah, IC12E.
Okay.
I came across the reason I'm talking about this, this up is because the original story was sort of like, this Chinese-made bus traveling from Hamburg to Copenhagen to Gothenburg to Oslo, right? And its efficiency and things like that. But there were still some pieces missing. Like, was this with passengers on board? Who is this company? That kind of thing. So I have added a member to our staff, quote unquote, in the form of various chatbots, right? LLMs, large language models. And so I decided, I asked ChatGPT in this particular case, look, take this article that was published in Travel Magazine or something like that, and find out what you can about this thing and sort of fill it in for EV World readers. I specified for EV World. And it, does this thing, goes out, I'm thinking, I'm organizing, I'm that, and then it spits it out. Well, I'd already trained it earlier on how to format things for me, because the way, I have a certain way that I need to format things to go into the database. And so it does all that. Made one mistake, which was easily correctable, and I'll go back and chastise it for making that mistake. But I thought it did a really good job, of taking an article that was sort of bare and kind of travelogue-ish and, more, in fact, ChatGPT commented, that article is really more a press release than anything else. And let's flesh this out for people. So that's kind of what you're looking at. This isn't the first article I've done like that. I had a string of articles. If you go over to what I call the synthetic intelligence AI page, you'll see that I've been doing this with primarily articles that are behind paywalls that I really want to know what's there. And some of these chatbots, some can't. They'll just tell you I can't go there because it's a subscription service. Other chatbots can, however they do it, go behind and sort of digest the article for me. And that's really all I'm interested in. Sort of digest, what are they saying? In this particular case, it took that article, which was fully open, there was no paywall involved, but really fleshed it out and made it of more interest to, I think, to a reader of EV World. So that's why I put it in there, just to kind of illustrate what we're getting now. I have my first staff member.
There you go. That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
It was saying here that it started in Hamburg
Yep.
went 510 kilometers to Copenhagen, and dropping from a 99% charge to a 28% charge. Had a remaining range of 173 kilometers, which they're saying this was a consumption rate of about 0.84 kilowatt hours per kilometer.
Yep.
So this is the reverse. We're always talking about, the range per kilowatt hour, and this is how many kilowatt hours it takes to go a mile. That would probably be about 1.2.
Well, go a kilometer. Yeah.
Yeah, it'd probably be about 1.2 kilowatts to go a mile.
Now this is
Okay.
this is a 12-meter bus that has 12 passengers plus their luggage. So
yeah. And this changed. So it said adjusted for load consumption, it would probably be 0.97 kilowatt hours. So that raised it about 15% more energy.
Well, that's what I asked.
Using.
I asked it. I said, look, this article, were there any passengers on board this tour, right, from Hamburg to Oslo? No, apparently there were no passengers other than the driver and maybe, an observer from the company or whatever. So I said, well, what would it be with that? And so it ran the numbers. Now, I have no way of knowing how accurate that is, but,
I'm wondering. So it went from Copenhagen to Oslo. I'm wondering if it was recharged while it was on the ferry.
Well, on the ferry, that's interesting. I don't know the answer to that.
Because we've seen the idea of that there could be charging stations on ferry boats.
Yeah, and they do have electric ferries operating there in the Nordic area. Which boat it was, I don't know, and whether that's available, I don't know.
Wow, Yutong was founded in 1993. It's the world's largest bus manufacturer by volume.
Yep.
They delivered 60,000 buses and 24, with a third of those, 20,000 being new energy buses.
And they're what? Something like, was it 30 countries, or there's
130.
130
out of 184. Yeah. Dominant player in Asia, Africa, Latin America, increasingly in Europe. Its electric offerings span city buses, BRT units, school buses, and now long-distance intercity coaches like the IC12E. Huh.
And by the way, the original article that the original publications appeared in was not that bus. I got to looking at the bus that I had posted originally. I said, that's not a intercity bus. That's like a inner city transit bus. So I went and looked and said, oh yeah, give me the right bus. So even that original publication didn't have the right bus, and I was able to quickly, before we came online, give me the right bus and put that photo instead.
So this is kind of interesting. I was wondering about charging times. It said it used a single fast charger, and you would assume something this side would be getting 2 jacks, right? But it says 0 to 99% is about 100 minutes, an hour and 40 minutes. With a single fast charger. That's 0 to 99. We usually talk 10 to 80, right? When we're talking cars, we're talking going from 10% to 80% in like 20, 30 minutes, depending on the car, right? But this was 100 minutes. I mean, obviously it's a larger battery. And that's a big part of it too. It didn't actually specify the battery size, but if it can go 500 kilometers, that battery is going to have to probably be almost 600.
I think.
Oh no, it does say it. It's 540.
Yeah.
Although it has 600. Yeah. It's a 600 kilowatt hour pack. It does say it's a 600.
I think it said that pack. There was. Yeah.
So that would be. Yeah, that's a pretty big battery. I mean, that's. It said 6 to 10 times the size of a car battery.
Yeah, it said that it used to go that 1,200 and what was it, 15 or something kilometers, which would of course be, what is that, 800 plus 900 miles. It used something like 985 kilowatt hours for that trip. So it was about a kilowatt per mile.
Mm-hmm.
But that's carrying.
That's a big that's actually a big step forward. I mean, because we
Well,
really
that
think about these buses as being, once again, originally all the EVs were what people consider to be commuter cars, only for using for commuting around town, right? And now
right.
they're starting to break that
Well,
mold.
and that's what attracted me because up to this point, all the discussion has been centered around inner city transit buses, right? Which operate, on a short routes, relatively speaking, and they have to sit for a period of time somewhere anyway to sort of maintain the schedule so they can be charged there. So that's a different operating cycle. Whereas you get on a coach bus, right? And you're traveling from Hamburg to Copenhagen. You got to have a bus that'll make that trip in one go, right? You don't want to be
Mhm.
stopping every 50 miles along the way and recharging. And that's what interests me. So we now have buses that are capable of doing electric buses capable of doing intercity travel.
Yeah, that's a big change. All right, let's move on to EVs reach a carbon break even in 2 years. And this is something we hear all the time. It's like, oh, they're not really as, you know, climate effective or whatever. And we expect EVs to actually be useful for 20 years. Okay, so that's a big difference between them and gas cars. And here we're talking about a 2 year time change. I wonder where they did this particular study.
Yeah,
Did
that was
you
a
have?
little because I think the original study came from a website. So, I would feel a lot more comfortable if this were a study done by, the Yale Climate Institute or MIT or Oak Ridge Labs or somebody like that. So,
Yeah, so they're saying Carbon Brief, ICCT, factcheck.org, and others confirm the carbon debt is repaid within a year and a half to 2 years of typical driving.
yeah.
With grids decarbonizing, EVs emerge as cleaner over their lifetimes, emitting nearly half the greenhouse gases of ICE vehicles. That's, I guess it depends on what vehicles you're all talking about. Um, I don't know. I think given the choice, if all other things are equal, people would rather drive a car that's less polluting, right? And as we get further down the road and EVs keep becoming more and more affordable, it's not going to make sense at all to
No.
drive. I saw somebody talking about if we banned all gas cars from selling new ones, we're going to have the Havana effect, in that we'll still have, you know, they still have cars driving around that are 80 years old in
Oh, yeah.
Havana, and they're certainly not fuel efficient or carbon efficient or whatever. A lot of those have never had a catalytic converter or anything.
They're strictly for tourists, right? Or maybe you're operating, because the number of people owning a car in Cuba is very, very small. So if you've got a
Hmm.
car, what are you going to do with it? You're probably going to put it to work, and you're going to do that either as a taxi service for your local neighborhood, or you're going to do it as a tourist because it's a 50 Chevrolet, Bel Air, right?
Right.
Something sort of, a classic from before the Cuban Revolution, and
Hmm.
that's part of the attraction. I'm going to go visit Cuba, and I'm going to ride around in one of those classic cars. Um, that's the only reason that you would probably still have those around.
No, it's just kind of wild to think about that. Um, Anyways, so it's a pretty short period for the decarbonization. We're going to go ahead and move on. I found this survey. Do you think a majority of Americans will have EVs in 20 years? And I'll just put this up on the screen. None of this is earth-shattering. This wasn't necessarily it's from a company called The Cool Down. Did this,
Okay, that's a website.
right?
Yeah.
And I'm not. They're sort of climate friendly, but they will publish EV news. They
Yeah.
publish all kinds of news. So this is where it kind of broke down. 29% say in 20 years, they still don't think the majority of Americans will have EVs. 26% still said only in some states, and 31% said absolutely. 14% weren't sure. I mean, 23,000 people have taken the poll. I thought that was,
That's interesting. I mean, that particular website generally tends to attract people with a more left-leaning bent,
yeah.
sort of neutral to skewing to the left, rather than, I think, to the right. I go on there and they publish a lot of stuff about EVs, and so I'll
Mhm.
link to them. So I wouldn't regard them as being anti-EVs. It's just based on
They're
what we're
just
seeing
publishing
here.
news. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the challenges. We try to be somewhat non-biased in what we talk about, but it's hard not to have some inherent biases when we see people doing stupid stuff. So, we do tend to post our own comments on that. But it's just hard to fathom in 20 years. I mean, the thing is, in 20 years, um, this is going to be one of the problems. EVs keep getting cheaper, right? And they last longer. So what's going to happen is you're going to
And
have
they're
fewer
more
cars
fun to
being sold.
drive.
Yeah. Well, I don't think you're going to have as many cars selling. I think you're going to see a decline in overall car sales.
And is part of this also Elon's vision, right?
Mhm.
Where I mean, we've got Lucid cutting a
Mhm.
deal to do robotic taxis. So are we going to get to the point to where, as Elon sort of envisions, people won't buy cars, they won't own cars because all they got to do is get on their phone, or maybe by then we've got things embedded in our palm of our hand, um, that you can call up a robo taxi to come pick you up and take you to wherever you need to be. And even what do my wife and I do mostly our driving? It's to go to the grocery store. Well,
Mhm.
now you don't even have to do that. The local Hy-Vee just down the road from me here, the Target, you see kids, pushing carts through through the store, putting goods in that people have ordered and they're going to pick up or get delivered. So theoretically, in fact, my wife and I kid about it. She said, as we were going over yesterday, for example, to Trader Joe's, which is 12 miles away, and she's saying, well, here we are on a date again. So that's our dating experience, right? We get together and we drive 12 miles to go walk the aisles of Trader Joe's. But other than I work from home, I don't have to go into an office or anything like that. So what do I need a car for? If I can order all the food I want brought to me, and maybe if I got to run to a doctor's appointment or something like that, I just I call up Tuber, or
There you go.
what was the other one? Luber,
Yeah, Luber, Tuber or Luber.
Tuber or Luber. So
Yeah. You can get your Tesla robotaxi or you can get your Lucid robotaxi. Yeah. All right. So Tesla is getting hit with shocking sales news in Canada. They're apparently down like two-thirds in sales. Now, Canada has dropped overall, EV registration in Canada has dropped 32% in the first half of 2025. So it's not just Tesla, but Tesla suffered a 67% drop. Canada halted the incentive for zero emission vehicles program back in January. Quebec had an EV rebate program that has paused for a couple of months, but it's now resumed. Um, and I don't know if Canada ran out of money or what, but they have completely dropped their rebates. Now, Tesla had raised prices on the Model Y and the Model 3 in February in Canada, and then they had to raise them again with tariffs imposed on cars imported from the US. So it hasn't been good for them in in that realm.
And I just saw, and I had to have a chance to verify it. I just saw that Canada decided to cut off natural gas supplies to America.
Really?
Yep.
That's not going to go well for them. They're going to cut off natural gas supplies to the U.S. Yeah, that won't bode well for Canada. Yeah, I'm sure their companies that make the gas or produce the gas aren't real thrilled about that. So that'll be kind of a non-starter. We'll see where that gets. That was kind of like the whole idea of Quebec cutting off or trying to charge an extra penny to the U.S. for hydroelectric.
For hydroelectric power.
Yeah.
Which basically is, that's what a good share of the state of New York runs on, and the northeastern states is powered by that hydropower out of Quebec.
Right. Yeah. Quebec sells it to the U.S. for 4 cents, and the local utilities sell it to the people for 25 cents. And they were talking about raising the price by a penny. And, I saw people saying, oh, that was going to raise people's electric bills by like $500 a month or something like that. It's like, man, you're bad at math.
Yeah.
and it might raise it, but it'd probably be like $20. It was just interesting how people, what they saw was a 25% increase from the 4 cents, which is 1 cent.
Yeah.
But the people will pay a different cost because people forget the primary cost of your electricity is really transmission.
Yeah, it's distribution.
It's not actually the creation of electricity. That's why, like here we have wind, and wind, depending on where it is in the investment cycle, has a basic cost of 0. And it's just, but
yeah, well,
the turbines.
The power's free. You just have to tap it.
Yeah, but the windmills aren't anywhere near Omaha, right? So they've got to transmit all that power quite a ways. Lots of electrical loss.
I was going to try to check and see. I don't have a browser up on that machine. See where we are wind-wise today.
All right. So GM's latest battery investment aims to make EVs cheaper. The automakers confirmed production of lithium iron phosphate LFP batteries at its Tennessee plant. I didn't even know they had a Tennessee plant. Oh, Spring Hill, Tennessee.
Probably Spring Hill,
by Nashville. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're going to manufacture lower cost LFP cells. Conversion of cell production lines for LFP is scheduled to begin later this year, with commercial production expected to start by late 2027. Man, that's a long time to get that up and running. It's a joint venture between GM and LG out of Korea. They have a sibling plant in Warren, Ohio, will continue to produce cells with nickel manganese cobalt chemistry used in current GM EVs. But the automaker expects significant battery pack cost savings compared to today's NMC packs. Cheaper chemistry could lead to cheaper EVs. Well, I mean, that's a big thing. Obviously, bringing the cost of the battery packs down is a big issue. LFP has been the dominant chemistry in China for a while, not just for passenger cars, but for commercial trucks and buses as well. Tesla uses LFP for certain U.S. market models. Ford plans to manufacture LFP batteries at its Blue Oval battery plant in Michigan. GM didn't say which vehicles would receive LFP, but it's located adjacent to the former Saturn assembly complex that currently builds the Cadillac Lyriq and the Mystique, as well as the Acura ZDX. But less expensive cells should help the next generation Chevy Bolt.
That's what I'm guessing. They'll put it in the Bolt, yeah.
Achieve a meaningfully lower price than the Chevy Equinox, currently GM's cheapest electric vehicle. Anyways, all right.
Just FYI here, I just checked. We're at 33% of the electric power that is being distributed through the Southern Power Pool system, of which we're a part, is coming from wind. So we're
Okay.
33% wind power.
I mean, some days you've seen that hit up around 70%.
Yeah, generally 50 to 60%. Yeah, I've had on very rare occasions it's been that high, but yeah, generally 30 to 60% is where we're at.
All right.
Unless it's a
Well, anyway,
really hot, dry day through the whole plains area.
yep. All right. Well, folks, I want to thank you all for watching today. I'll be back with Mike Herzog tomorrow, and Bill and I will be back on Thursday. Otherwise, folks, have a great
Yay.
day.
All right. Bye.